everyone, it's Michelle Lupton here, and I'm going to show you how I made this card using these brand new products from the January My Monthly Hero release from Hero Arts. So there's lots of coordinating products in this release, and I'm going to be using mainly the Peonies bunch image. But the cool thing about this particular stamp set is it comes not only with coordinating dies, the frame cuts that go along with it, but also some colour layering stencils. So you can see I'm going to start with the stencils here, and you can see in the corners of these stencils there are little square holes, and you can use them to line up your stencils layers with each other, but I'm just going to be using the corner of my Misty to do this instead. So I'm using some ink blending brushes, also from Hero Arts, and I'm using 4 different shadow inks from Hero Arts. These are dye inks, and I have had these for, I shudder to think how long I've had them for, and they're still absolutely fabulous. So the first one that I'm using here is the colour Soft Blossom, which is kind of like a slightly dusky pink. And then I'm going over with the next layering stencil in Soft Cantaloupe, which is a lovely sort of, it's cantaloupe colour really. It's an orange with a pink tone to it. And the reason I use these 2 colours together is that my favourite rose in the entire world is Just Joey. Now I know these are not roses, they're peonies. I know, but I still like the colour combination of pink with orange. I seem to be on a pink and orange kick at the moment. I've had so many cards that I've made recently that have the colour combination of pink with orange. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm moving on now to some soft green. Now, I believe that this colour is actually discontinued, but if I was going to be using a current stocked colour, I would probably choose Mint Julep. That's the most similar to this colour in the current Hero Arts range. Now, I didn't want the leaves to be overwhelmingly green. I just wanted them to be really, really soft, which is why I went with this colour for the background. And these, this is the first time I've used these colour layering stencils, and they're super easy to use, especially just butting them up into the corner of my Misty. Really, really easy to line up. Alright, so I'm just making sure I've got an even coverage of ink, and you can see how beautifully those stencils line up. And now I've got the 4th stencil in place, which just adds some details to those leaves. And the colour I'm using here is Fresh Lawn. Again, I'm trying not to go too heavily. This Fresh Lawn is a really intense grass green. But I didn't want it to be too dark. I didn't want it to overwhelm the really, really pale flowers that I've got there. It's going for a really super soft look. Alright, so I'm just going over to make sure it's relatively even over the entire image. Now, I could have left it there, and I would have been really happy with leaving it there, but I had the stamp, and so I wanted to see how the stamp went with that stenciling. Now, I'm really looking forward to using this stamp by white embossing it onto some watercolour paper and then watercolouring with it. I think that's going to be really fun. But today I just decided to do a nice crisp black outline. And when you see the sentiment that I ended up using, you'll see why. I wanted a really sort of solid image. Even though the colouring is very, very pale, I still wanted it to be a nice solid black to go with the idea that I had for the rest of the card. Alright, so I'm using my intensified black ink there. And now I've just grabbed out the frame cuts that match the Peonies bunch stamp and stencils, and I'm just going to be adding some masking tape to hold it in place. I'm just trying to make sure I've got it lined up absolutely perfectly, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And yep, it's cut absolutely beautifully, and I'm just going to pop that out and put the die away and move on to actually starting to put the card together. Now, this next bit, some of you may be horrified. That's okay. Take a deep breath. I'm actually going to take this image and slice it down the middle. Yes. Yes, you heard me. And so this may cause anxiety in some people. Don't stress. Don't stress. It's all going to be fine. Because what I wanted to do was to separate out these two pieces and have the sentiment running in the middle. But because I had the really bold outline of the Peonies bunch stamp, I decided I needed a bold border on either side of my sentiment that I'm about to stamp. So I'm just taking some of the Hero Arts black cardstock and slicing a really, really narrow little strip. And I'm just running my fingers along the edge because the blade in my cutter is in need of replacing. So I got a few little fuzzies, but easy to get rid of. And now I'm just making sure that everything is going to be straight on my card. So I'm using my T ruler to rule 2 lines, and my sentiment is going to go right in the middle of those lines, and then the peony images will go on either side of that. So those ruled lines will actually be covered up by the black strip and by the peony, so never fear, they're going to be covered up. All right, so the sentiment that I'm using here, just the single word love in this amazing font, is from another stamp set in this release. It's called Key to My Heart, and I didn't ink it up very well, so let's try again and get a nice crisp black image there. Don't you just love the font on this word? Some of the fonts used in this release are just so beautiful. All right, so now it comes to just putting this card together, which nothing really fancy here. So I'm going to be using some tape runner to glue those peonies down first. So I'm just going to grab that out. So I tend to use this Kokuyo brand tape runner. And I'm just going to line that up so it's below that ruled line, only just slightly below that ruled line, but parallel to the ruled line so it's nice and straight. And then I will add those black borders in. But because the black borders are so thin, I'm using a glue bottle here that has a needle nose tip on it. I actually went a bit crooked, so I need to clean off my fingers to get rid of some of that glue. All the best laid intentions, go and get a very fine nozzle and then go crooked anyway. That's just like me. Anyway, I'm going to be gluing down that border onto that liquid glue. Make sure it's nice and straight, and then I'm just going to flip my card over after I've added my little pin back into my glue bottle, flip the card over and cut off the excess pieces that are hanging off the edge. And once that's done, my card is finished for today. So thank you very much for watching and for visiting my channel. I'd really appreciate it if you could click on the subscribe button. That would be awesome, and I'll see you again for my next video. Bye.